There's going to always be people who want to use your time for their political agenda. Sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's just not. You can't let other people pressure you, really.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of the Bleeding Metal podcast. I'm your host. My name is Kiki, and my pronouns are she, her. And today I have an amazing guest, a rock and roll icon, and I'm super excited to welcome Bif Naked. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. You've been doing a lot of press currently.
Yeah, very exciting time.
Tell us about all of the work that you're doing right now, promoting your documentary.
Well, right now is fun because we have a documentary that's just coming out and we're doing screenings here in North America. We just had a screening in Vancouver last week at the Rio Theater, and Toronto was this week. The documentary is called Bif Naked, a documentary, and it's pretty amazing because it chronicles my life and career. And we're screening it in movie theaters, and we're doing an acoustic show and a question and answer with the audience. So it's a special event that we're doing. And so it's making a lot of attention. Super Channel is going to stream it as of this week, which is a really amazing opportunity here. And they're a good Canadian company, so very exciting.
Right. That's happening in only 3 days. So
Yeah.
this is really great timing to meet you and have you tell us all about that.
Thank you. It's kind of a dream come true, to say the least. What happened was I had put out a memoir in 2016 at the urging of my manager, Peter. He's been my manager since 1992. You guys might be familiar with him. He was the manager for many years for a band called Annihilator. And so he started managing my band that was a bit of a thrash band called Chrome Dog. And he co-managed me with John and Marcia Zazula from Crazed Management. And a lot of you might be familiar with those guys. And so Peter managed me for the past 32 years. So my career was long thus far. And then when I was in my 30s, about, I don't know, 5 or 6 records in, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so that was a bit of a surprise. I was pretty young at the time. I was only in my mid-30s. And so I had kind of conquered that. And as a result, Peter encouraged me to write a memoir, an autobiography. So I wrote this autobiography that came out. It was very successful. I did book tours and I did speaking engagements, and we went on and resumed kind of doing the rock tours in Canada and whatnot. And then a couple of years ago, had an opportunity to make a feature film based on the book Ibithecus. And so Peter's been working with the production on doing this feature film. And all the while, he was approached by a number of documentary filmmakers want to do a documentary about my life. And Peter always told them no. And he was kind of having a conversation with the feature film, Ibithecus feature film production, about the documentary guys harassing him. And they said, Peter, why don't you just make a documentary with us? We're the best documentary people anyways. Because they had this wonderful documentary called Bisping, based on the UFC fighter from the UK. And so he said, sure, let's give it a shot. And so for the past 3 years, we've been working with Scorgy and Electric Panda. And so we went to Paris many times with the shooting schedule and went to Mexico and, of course, followed me on tour. And that's kind of how the documentary came to be. And now here it is in the theaters. Yeah,
Congratulations.
that's how it
That's
happened.
incredible. So you have now two films about your life.
Well, one is still in production, of course, and
Okay.
this one is the documentary. So it's very exciting. It's very humbling. I mean, the documentary is very factual.
Right. You have already started to tell us of the many experiences and milestones of your career, but I would very much like to know about your growing up and all of the life experiences that made you the person you are now. How was your childhood?
Well, because I'm adopted, I think that that probably had a lot to do with me being kind of an outgoing kid. I think that a lot of adopted kids might be either very shy or very silly, outgoing, and I was the class clown in a way. I think that my sister, who was always also adopted, was very shy and very introverted, whereas I was the opposite, very gregarious and outgoing. And plus, I think that my story of origin, being born in India, I think that always had so many question marks for me. Being raised in North America, I think that my sister and I really romanticized India a lot. When I
Okay.
went back as an adult, I think that I had to go back and really understand the realities of India politically and sociopolitically before I could fully grasp, all of the deep meaning that it had and held for me. And so now I just want to keep going back, but it's hard
Okay.
to find the time to do that.
Yeah.
It's very time consuming, being an artist, of course, finding that time. You don't want to go for 2 weeks holiday. You want to go for a month or 3 months. You want to immerse
Yeah.
yourself. But the subcontinent really, it's just, they say with India, it's the largest middle class in the world. And it's hard to grasp that idea until you go there and understand when they talk about the middle class of India. The
Mhm.
middle class really is the working poor. That is the middle, so it's such an interesting society. And now more than ever, it's important to understand all the unrest and what it means, as a society. And politically, it's a little corrupt. I could talk about it, but yeah. So it's been interesting. My childhood was very good. And
Mhm.
my adoptive parents were very supportive of what I wanted to do as I wanted to be an artist. They were very supportive.
Were your parents musicians or artists as well? Or was there someone in the extended family?
Not at all. My dad was a dentist, and my mother, who had her degree in education and had a degree in nursing, basically was raising her daughters.
Mhm.
But yeah, they were not musicians or artists or actors or anything like that.
Okay.
I was a huge disappointment because I was very disobedient as a child. And once I discovered music and thrash and heavy metal and punk rock, I was very disobedient.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Punk is a very rebellious genre, so
Yeah.
it's right there. Was that something as well that was part of you before you discovered music, or was your political conscience, did that come from punk?
My parents were socialists. My dad was really into the civil rights movement when my parents were younger. When they were in university, they were big followers of Dr. Martin Luther King, and my parents marched on Washington with Dr. King. So that was something that I admired about my parents anyway. They raised us to be
Mhm.
politically conscious. And so that's something that I appreciated growing up.
What about feminism? You have also been very vocal about those types of human rights issues. Was that also a topic that was talked about in your home?
I think so. I think that it's impossible not to have been aware of that kind of 70s feminism, the old original feminism, just because of the age of my parents. Even though at the bra burning glorious Steinem age of feminism, my parents were in India at that time.
Mhm.
But I think as females, it would have been impossible for us not to be raised with a bit of a consciousness about that. And plus, my dad believed God is a woman. He always used to tease us and tell us God was a woman. That was really his sense of humor also.
Hmm.
But, I think that they definitely, as far as equality and equal rights and human rights goes, that's just who they were.
And when you started making music and exploring the scene, how many women were you surrounded by? What was your experience in that sense?
Well, when I was first in bands in Winnipeg, Manitoba, I think that there were not a lot of females.
Uh-huh.
Definitely not in the early years. So most of my idols and most of my mentors were
Hmm.
always dudes. And
Okay.
I never really felt like it was something that was a hardship. I never worried about it.
Hmm.
I didn't think that there was a lack of girls represented. I didn't worry or feel bad there were no girls in the mosh pit. It was just, there was a smaller population anyways in our small cities in Canada, and maybe the same is true in a lot of the European cities also. Most of these punk scenes and most of the mosh pits, there was just an underrepresentation of girls anyways. There always was. A lot of the metal shows also, it was always a sausage party. It just kinda
Hmm.
always was. And, the girls would show up, they always had the Chelsea haircuts, and it was just always less girls around. So I never worried about it. There were some girls in bands that were from the
Hmm.
States that we heard about or that we saw. It wasn't really until the Riot Girls that we would start seeing, more and more representation from girls, but it's nobody that we knew. We just kinda admired them from afar. So it was just really the famous girls that we knew, like Joan
Yeah.
Jett or like Debbie Harry or something like that.
Yes. Did you ever get a chance to tour with them or to have any contact at all with other women in the scene?
Oh, sure. I mean, eventually, yeah. Like once I had in my band Gail Greenwood, for example, and Gail was from Boneyard and eventually Belly. And then she would go on to play with L7 and stuff like that. Definitely, she was a huge influence
Hmm.
on me and still is to this day. Now she's playing with Gang of Four and like bands like that, which is amazing. And her band Belly is back on tour. So it does definitely inspire me as it still continues to inspire me. And I still get inspired. By people like Tina Turner. I just look at Tina Turner and I go, come on. She was in her late 70s in high
Hmm.
heels and a miniskirt, and she was timeless. Nobody sat there going, oh, she was like 79 years old. No one cares. No one cares
Hmm.
how old Cyndi Lauper is. No one cares. No one cares. It's Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah. What have been the things that you have seen change in the scene?
Wow. I don't know. Shows have changed so much. The hardcore scene particularly has changed. Pre-COVID and post-COVID, shows have changed. And
Yeah.
it's hard to find shows with pits. And also there's things that aren't allowed anymore. Like they're just not allowed. You can't do them anymore. And I think about when we were younger, we were nuts. We were allowed to do things. People looked out for each other at shows. Now you're
Hmm.
not allowed to do things at shows at all. You can't stage dive at a show. You're not allowed to stage dive. You're not allowed
Yeah.
to, there's just things you're not allowed to do. And you think,
Yeah.
why not? And then people are like, well, what do you mean, why not? Because you can get hurt. And we're just like, "So?" We're just like, "What are you talking about?" And
Yeah.
I think back and I think, how many people broke their elbows? Like,
Yeah.
hundreds. How many
Their
people
clavicles and
broke
everything.
their noses? Hundreds. We think about so many guys. We know guys who bit their tongue off at a show, like stage diving. We know guys who, yeah, landed on their elbows. We know guys who broke their ankle in the mosh pit. It's not allowed. You are not allowed to do it anymore, and we never thought about it, And we were like, "Oh, yeah, that's Johnny from down the street. How did he break his nose?" "Yeah, he broke his nose in the pit." "I don't know." "Yeah, he smashed his thing in the—" It did not occur to us not to do
Yeah.
it next weekend. We were just like, "Oh, the poor guy, yeah, he had to be helped out of the pit." We just, like, never thought about it.
Yeah, yeah,
No
yeah.
big deal.
And also that is mainly mosh pit etiquette. We all know we help each other up if anyone
Yeah,
falls. The community feeling of safety that we
that's
give each
right.
other in a concert situation.
100%. I got my teeth knocked out on stage. I was so proud. I was so proud. I was, like, so
Yes.
proud. It was from a stage driver. I was, like, so proud. I wasn't mad at him.
Oh wow. That's for sure an amazing memory.
Yeah.
There have been, however, a lot of people not complaining, but telling stories of bad experiences while in the mosh pit or crowd surfing, especially women getting grabbed without their consent, that type of thing. I've heard vocalists talk in interviews about how they, being on stage, would also have to protect their bodies
Yeah.
not to be grabbed from people from the audience. And so it's really difficult sometimes to draw attention to those types of harassment,
Yes.
while at the same time there are a lot of people with really good experiences, people who have not been asked backstage if they were just the girlfriend because everyone knew they were the musician. So there's always both types of experiences, but it is a problem that is still happening now and that we still need to work on.
Sure, but that's society. That's not just in the scene. You can't take it personally. There's always gonna be a bad apple. I mean, it's happened to me. It's happened to, but you can't get upset. What are you gonna do? You're gonna hit a guy over the head with your microphone and keep doing the show. Like, that's it. It's just like, if the guy's being a goof, you bonk him in the nose and keep playing. Whatever, like, just keep going. You can't let one comment ruin your show.
Sure.
That's all.
Yes.
Keep going. You can't let one silly rabbit ruin your show.
True. I love that people have also been talking about that type of thing. What is your perspective on political statements on stage or talking about these issues directly with the audience while you have this stage literally?
Well, it depends. There's gonna always be people who want to use your time for their political agenda. Sometimes it's appropriate and sometimes it's just not. It really depends, and it's your prerogative as an
Hmm.
artist. If you're a political person and it's what you're passionate about, that's great. But if it's something you're not passionate about, it's your show, you know?
Right.
End of story. It is your show. It is your band. It's your band's show. If someone wants to talk about the unrest in Nigeria during your show and say you don't know anything about Nigeria and you're not comfortable, then invite them to leave flyers at your merch table if they want to.
Hmm.
If that aligns with you, hopefully that will make them happy. But if it doesn't, that's not your fault because it's still
Yeah.
your show. And that's all you can do, and you can't let other people pressure you. Really. I don't know what to say. Like, for us, I always try and do the best I can to make everybody happy. I'm very passionate about trying to help everybody out and be a voice for everybody, but you're not gonna make everybody happy.
No, that's impossible.
Yeah.
What are the causes that you have been most passionate about throughout your career?
Obviously, always animal rights and, abused animals. We don't like dog fighting rings. There's a lot of dumped animals up here in Canada. We've always tried to, in every town, we want to try and help out the local animal shelters a lot. I've been involved with lots of different organizations that are trying to help out when it comes to disability poverty. I was involved with something called Raise the Rates. They're talking about government assistance and how it's never enough. And also, obviously, cancer charities. I want to try and encourage peer to peer volunteering for cancer charities. Also, missing and murdered Indigenous women. and girls. I want to encourage people to get behind that cause, raise awareness where I can, and just other things that, are brought to my attention. I want to try and just help out where I can.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are amazing causes. That's so admirable. Going back to your career, because you not only have changed the world from my perspective through all of those incredible activism deeds, but at the same time you have changed people through emotions. Do you have an anecdote, a memory that you could share with us from fans that have very probably told you how you changed their lives?
I don't know. For example, I was pretty young when I went through my own breast cancer journey. And what I discovered was afterward, there were a lot of other young women who were going through breast cancer. And at the time that I went through it, there was no Instagram yet. And it was pretty isolating for people. There were not a lot of different online forums yet. So I think that what wound up happening was a lot of patients who were actively going through chemotherapy or who had just finished would wind up coming to the show. And so there was kind of this unspoken sorority being developed. And to me, that was very special. And so I felt really, really kind of honored, that they would come to the concerts and feel, I guess, really safe enough to share their stories with
Yeah.
me or feel safe enough to speak out or brave enough to kind of emerge and have a Bif Naked show be their, I guess, official, you know, coming out after their treatment. That would be their event. And so that would just be so moving, so touching.
Yeah.
And that for me is just, I'll never forget it. When people just felt that they could use that as their event to reemerge into the world. I just feel that's so special.
Absolutely. Well, you were going through the illness and the treatment. What was or was there something that gave you hope and that gave you strength and resilience?
I would say for sure it's definitely the nurses. They were always so positive. Most of the nurses in oncology, they chose to be in that particular arm of nursing and they want to choose that side of nursing rather than anything else, rather than regular nursing or pediatric nursing or anything else. They chose to be in the cancer care. And
Yeah.
it was just, I learned so much just about the cells, so much about different way the body reacts. And it's still to this day, when I do any volunteering, I like having that knowledge so that when I'm talking to someone who's new to chemo, I can
Hmm.
be more informed so that when they have questions about what they're going through, I can talk to them and tell them, what to expect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And while all of this was happening, you were also writing an album and processing maybe even your emotions through the music, through the lyrics.
Yeah, that was the Promise album, and I was working on it with Jason Dorr from Neurosonic, and definitely it's a very different sounding album. You can hear it in the songs.
Yeah. Was that therapeutic? Did that help you?
Oh, most definitely, yeah. And to work on that album with Jason was so cathartic and
Mhm.
it was so difficult. It took a long time just because it was hard to sing. I had a port under my collarbone and there was a catheter tube that was up my vein. And every time I sang, my whole throat would swell up. And so, yeah, it was just such a unique experience of trying to sing. It was so funny. It took a long time.
Yeah, that's incredible. Did you ever have any formal singing education? That's the word.
I never did. It was between the Purge album and Super Beautiful Monster. We were on tour so much that my voice it just felt like I was always losing it on tour. And so I went to this one coach. Her name was Judith Rabinovich because she had trained she was living in Vancouver, and she was very famous for doing training with Sarah McLachlan. And so I was told I had to go see her, and I learned some techniques from her that were like she made me lie on the floor and then sing all my songs just lying down on the floor. And I remember
Mhm.
thinking, "This is so stupid, I don't wanna do this." But I learned so much from her about, technique of using my diaphragm. It was amazing. It was just the most amazing practice, like, just practical techniques of breathing that I wasn't using, and that was, like, the only time I'd ever worked with a professional coach. I don't know if it helped me sing any better. I always say I sing like a dying cat to this day, but she taught me a lot about breathing, and that helped me a lot.
That's so cool. Your songs are so full of energy and so full of authenticity as well. And
Thank you.
your story in general is so inspiring. I would just want to ask you, for other women in metal, what advice would you give us all?
Oh, wow. I would always say, no matter what, just sing like you're at Rock'em Park.
Mhm,
Just
mhm.
pretend you're at Rock'em Ring every show.
Yeah.
And then I used to think, practice like you're singing to Ville Velo. No, it's so hard because when I was really young, my manager used to tell me not to talk in between songs. He would
Okay.
say that if I talk in between songs, I betray my my persona because I would sit there and we would sing and go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa," and have our, like, growly singing voice and sing these songs that are like, "Blah, I'm angry, oh, blah," and then I'd go, "Thank you everybody for coming," and he would just go, "Stop talking to the audience. Just don't say anything." And I go, "Okay, I won't say anything." And he go, "Okay, because when you talk, then you talk in this cute voice, and you keep thanking them and you keep telling them they're nice and you keep telling them they're so cute. Shut up." He's like, "Stop talking. Stop telling them they're cute." And I go, "Okay."
Mhm.
And they go, "Okay, just sing your songs." I go, "Okay." And I'd go, "Sing," and I'd sing. And they'd go, "Thank you, Hanover. You're so sweet and cute." And he'd go, "Shut up." So, yeah, the only advice I would say is don't tell them they're cute. Don't tell the audience they're cute and sweet. Just stick to this, and yeah, and don't
Yeah.
tell them they're cute and sweet.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and for all your insight. I'm still looking forward to watching the documentary, Bif Naked, the documentary.
Thank you.
And also, we'll keep our eyes peeled for the other movie that also is still in production
Thank
and
you.
all of the things that are still in the making.
Thank you so much.
Thank
I
you so
appreciate it.
much.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to subscribe to the Bleeding Metal podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and watch every conversation we have here on YouTube. See you next time. Bye bye.